Oh no, I'm back in the world's worst movie theater. I've literally run out of ideas of how to say how bad this theater is. I mean, yeah, it only took me, what, four times to really figure out every good joke I had for how bad the movie theater is here. But you know what? If these movies I'm talking about here aren't going to put the effort into entertaining me, then why the hell should I? So, skip the intro. Let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. And let's head to my number 25 pick for my worst movies of all time. And this is actually a cheat because it's actually two movies, but two movies that insult the intelligence and legacy of one of the greatest authors of all time, Dr. Seuss. And, of course, I'm talking about, first off, The Cat in the Hat, and then second off, probably the most surprising one of the two, The Lorax. So, let's start with The Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat was directed by Bo Welsh, and stars Mike Myers as the title character, and Dakota Fanning and Spencer Breslin, and it's basically, I mean, it's essentially the same kind of concept that, from the book itself. I mean, the book is basically these two kids are waiting out a rainstorm, they have bored in the house, nothing to do, and all of a sudden the cat comes around and decides, let's have some fun. Sort of like that here this time around, but, except even worse. The biggest insult, I think, of the two movies that I have here, you know, I mean, both of these movies in particular completely take away everything that made Dr. Seuss so special and just butchered it. I mean, butchered it. And like I said, the biggest of the insult of the two is the Cat in the Hat, which takes Dr. Seuss's most iconic character and just turns him into an egotistical jackass. I mean, Mike Myers could have been good casting for this, but then again, the last movie he made before this was Austin Powers and Goldmember, so take that for what you will. The casting in here just seems forced and phoned in. The two kids, Dakota Fanning and Spencer Breslin, are not engaging whatsoever. They're your typical bland, forgettable, trying to be relevant kids of the 90s and early 2000s that don't act like normal kids whatsoever. Kelly Preston is completely underused here. Alec Baldwin's just there to be a bland, forgettable bad guy. There really is no character in this movie that you like at all. And not only that, but the movie forces some of the worst filler I have ever seen in a movie before. This thing is only 82 minutes long, and yet it still cannot find shit to do in that period when it's not taken from the source material. It says something when I'd rather watch the 2000 Grinch movie, which has a ton of flaws at the runtime, but I got more enjoyment out of it. That's how bad this movie really is. And worst of all, it's a complete misfire of everything Seuss's material stood for. For example, here's a pointless party scene with Paris Hilton showing up for a cameo. Paris Hilton in a Dr. Seuss movie. Do I even need to say more about why that's wrong? How about another one? You know, there's literally a scene where the Cat in the Hat's promoting Universal Studios and even does a ka-ching during the final key part of the final act. It's like, the people who made this just don't give a fuck whatsoever. And the worst part about it is the talent that's involved in this movie. You've got Alec Berg, best known for his work with Seinfeld and Silicon Valley. David Mandel, who wrote for Veep and also did Seinfeld as well. Jeff Schaffer, again, wrote for Seinfeld. And The League. You've got three writers from Seinfeld, and you completely screw this entire thing up. How? It also doesn't help that this movie is directed by Bo Welsh, who's a production designer, best known for his work on Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters 2, Batman Returns, the Men in Black movies. You know, he's never directed a movie before since this movie's come out, and it shows why this guy can't direct. There are little scenes where you see miscues and things before they're supposed to happen. Like, there's a scene that I always remember when Alec Baldwin's character is supposed to pop out and surprise the kids as they reach the house. But if you look as they're running, you literally see Baldwin's legs right there. Like, how badly do you have to fuck up to not notice that? They don't even hide it. That's how lazy this movie really is. And then you have The Lorax, and there's just a lot about that movie that just fails and fails miserably too. First of all, The Lorax is hardly in the movie. You know, kind of like with the Tom and Jerry movie, the 93 one we talked about on here. I hate it when the title characters are not the main focus of the movie. The Lorax isn't only half of the film. If you can't just force the title character to be a supporting character in their own movie. It doesn't work. And secondly, this has the same problems that Horton Hears a Who had. And it doesn't know how to take it slow or settle down. It needs to just be loud and vibrant because kids will not understand what's going on. And Horton Hears a Who is the better movie of these two. It's probably the best Dr. Seuss movie we've had since they started making these. The second one being the Grinch one we got in 2018, which not really saying a whole lot. Third, there's stuff that happens in this movie that makes no sense whatsoever. They have a funeral for a tree. The one store opens up a bag of marshmallows and the animals start dancing around in slow motion. They never give a clear example of why the one store turns evil and does it through a poorly done song. The voice acting is absolutely horrible. I mean, Zac Efron and Taylor Swift aren't really stretching their acting chops. I mean Taylor Swift isn't voicing this movie. That's already means that this thing is doomed from the get-go. Rob Riggle's playing your standard jackass character. Betty White's just being Betty White. Nobody has any range to them whatsoever. Like, yeah, Danny DeVito as the Lorax, it's just him being Danny DeVito as the Lorax. I mean, it'd be fine, kind of like with Mike Myers, if the movie was good, or you give him something to do. And like with The Cat in the Hat, the biggest problem with this whole movie, the pop culture references. This has got to stop because they have a scene where they play disco music for no reason at all. It comes from a plastic tree. Like, why do these movies have to throw in this stupid stuff like this? It's just so ridiculous and so unbelievable that I can't believe I even have to spell this out for people. These are supposed to be timeless movies. Dr. Seuss sets its stories in a timeless setting. It's not supposed to be set in any kind of setting or time period. It's supposed to happen at any point in the history of time, like how Pixar does most of their movies in general. Once in a while, they'll do some modern stuff too, but like it's mostly stuff where most of the time they keep it where you can believe that this could happen in any time period. Honestly, for the most part, these are books that we've grown up with as kids, and the appeal of those kids these days have gone so way downhill from where they were when we were growing up. They've got to stop throwing pop culture references in Dr. Seuss movies and just go back to making them timeless films. The 2018 Grinch, I think, kind of came close to doing that, but even then they had to throw in pop culture references too. But at least in that movie, there was at least something funny about it. There was at least some creativity with the way they did with it. I'm not going to say it was a great thing by any means necessary, but it certainly was a lot better than anything that's come out since is with the Cat in the Hat and the Lorax. That's for damn sure. And worst of all, it's another Dr. Seuss movie that goes completely against everything the book is based on and is supposed to fight for. You remember when the marketing campaign for this movie had nothing but the Lorax promoting Mazda cars? I mean, wow, way to be hypocritical to the message of your movie, Universal. But hey, NBC's paying you. You're NBC, and you want to get as much money as you can from corporations. Like, it got so bad that The Simpsons had to parody this in the Treehouse of Horror episode that came out later in the year. Now, are there good things about this movie? Yeah, there's a couple of good things. I mean, the animation can look really good sometimes. I mean, this is what I immediately think of when I see a Dr. Seuss movie. It feels like you have been transported into this world that I grew up with through the books. And I kind of talk smack about Danny DeVito, but you know what? Danny DeVito and Ed Helms, I thought they were the best things about the movie in general. I thought DeVito fit the role of the Lorax well, even though it was him just being straightforward Danny DeVito. And I thought Ed Helms did a good job as the One Star, doing two very different versions of the character. You know, the One Star's regular self and the older, scruffler version of himself. I think that's the strongest performances of the film that really do carry the film to get together to some form of likability. But other than that, though, this movie is garbage. This is one of the worst animated movies I have ever seen. The point is that both The Cat in the Hat and Lorax are complete missteps of what Dr. Seuss's works are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be entertaining They're supposed to be entertaining stories for kids as well as adults, and also teach life lessons. They're not supposed to be these raunchy, over-the-top, and hypocritical PG-rated failures of movies. It says a lot when the two Grinch movies we've gotten and Horton Hears a Who are the better adaptations of the Dr. Seuss stories that we've gotten, which even though all those movies aren't perfect, but at least they're trying to capture the spirit of the stories way better than Cat in the Hat and Lorax did. Everybody can agree that Cat in the Hat's one of the worst movies ever, but I have just this bad personal vendetta against the Lorax that's just as bad. I put that in the same category. Two of Dr. Seuss's most iconic characters being forced into really, really shitty movies. And so that's why I cheated a little bit here to say that Cat in the Hat and the Lorax are my 25th worst movies of all time. So with all that said, thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear what I had to say about my 26th worst movie of all time, Sharknado, I'll leave a link to it in the corner there, and I will see you guys next time.